Every week, we always look forward to this segment. 3 levels of government, different stories with political commentator Scott Reid joining us. We've got to start, of course, at the federal level, the federal budget. It seems to have now renewed calls by some for Justin Trudeau to abandon Liberal leadership. This is a conversation that kind of ebbs and flows every few months, it seems.
Yeah, and it's ebbing. Or is it flowing?
I'm not
don't
sure
know.
what it is.
It's rushing hard.
It's bubbling up.
It's like a spring river going. And so, you know, what's happened is in the aftermath of the budget, where you saw the government really sink a ton of communication resources into selling this thing. They did 2 weeks of pre-announcements. Budget day, the post-budget tour. You're seeing the Prime Minister out there. He's going. He's announced that he's doing a podcast tour. He's, unplugged and But the polls aren't moving. The polls are just not budging. And so with the discussion that is starting to happen is, so will he step down before the next election? And that conversation is beginning to happen in earnest. So you saw a leak a couple of weeks ago, a buzz, a story, a rumor that Dominic LeBlanc, with whom he's actually been friends since they were children, right? Dominic LeBlanc's dad worked for Pierre Trudeau. So like these two were kids together in Ottawa, and then of course Dom's dad went on to become Governor General. But so you got Dominic LeBlanc, Mark Carney's out giving speeches, separated himself a little bit, put a little distance between himself and the budget. Melanie Joly, who's in the thick of things with the Middle East crisis, is rumored to be running Champagne, a whole pile of different people. And so this discussion is becoming more earnest. People are starting to talk about when will he move. What's interesting, Nick, and what's I think to keep your eye on is, in the past, when you've gotten to this point in governments and people are talking about will the Prime Minister retire or whatever, you start to get pressure. You start to get, like, it's not just will he, it's shouldn't he, and people start putting their hand on the Prime Minister's back. That's not happening here. Like, everyone's respectful. It really is and remains Trudeau's party, which creates an interesting question. How, if you're down in the polls, can someone try to campaign to take over from Trudeau without also being a candidate change? You got to be a candidate change in order to try to capture people's imagination, give the party a new look. So we're going to be watching to see how this debate unfolds. Does Trudeau go through the summer? Does he decide that he wants to leave? Does he go through Christmas? Does he decide he wants to leave? Does he decide I ain't going to leave? I'm going to take this thing, gird up, put on the battle armor. We're going. It's going to be very interesting to watch. But leadership talk is ripping through Ottawa, and it's not going to get quieter. It's going to get louder. And
would you think this would be a Justin decision, or this would be a cabinet decision, or this would be a party decision? Like, who makes the final?
It is always a Justin decision. It is a leader's decision. You know, even in the days of Chrétien Martin, and I was right in the thick of it. I mean, Chrétien ultimately, he was, he really wanted to stick around for another election, and he was being pushed. Party membership said, listen, we want change. But it fell to him. Like, if he'd wanted to soldier on, he would have been able to sort of square off against the party. So Trudeau's case, he really is in control of the party, and it'll be his call.
Okay, speaking of calls, provincial government is looking to ban cell phones in classrooms starting next year, also cracking down on vaping as well here. What's the calculus on this one?
Well, the challenges in the education system, demand for cash, the demand for resources is so overwhelming. And this government likes to, every once in a while, get into a Punch and Judy show with school boards. It likes to sort of, it's a little conservative government, likes to sort of, rain on school boards. They're keeping their eye off the ball. They're focused on the wrong things, all that kind of stuff. This is really an attempt to go over the heads of the school boards, of the educators, of the administrators, and say, we're talking to parents about what they care about. Some polls say 75% of parents want to see cell phones banned in the classroom. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this thing unfolds. My question is it wise for the government to drag the schoolroom into the political debate? Because right now, I think education is kind of a sleeping giant. I think there's a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of demand for resources in the school system. And while this seems like they're playing to the bleachers, I just wonder if they are going to uncork a broader debate about, okay, fine, cell phones we agree with, but for the love of God, man, right? Why do we have 29 students in a classroom? What are we going to be doing about that? So I think watch this space.
Once you poke the bear a little bit and talk more about it, then the next ripple effect happens.
One of the things in politics, you don't always get to contain the conversation to the terms that you would like to set. Sometimes once you start talking about healthcare, it runs away on you. Sometimes you start talking about education, it starts to run away on you. So be careful.
Time's running away on us, but we got to talk about this. About 20 candidates in the running for the next mayor of Mississauga. Interesting race. 2 familiar names getting involved, the Crombie and a McCallion.
Oh, man.
What about this? Like, talk about this race.
I am counting on this Mississauga by-election for mayor, to keep things good and weird at the municipal level. Because, as you say, Bonnie Crombie has stepped away as mayor to become the Ontario Liberal leader. Her ex-husband has decided on the last day of nominations that he was going to throw his name in, so he wants to run. And then another name that's familiar to people, Hazel McCallion, past mayor, 100 years old, Hurricane Hazel. Her son decides that he's going to run. Then he pulls out, throws his support to Carolyn Parrish, who's been around forever, was a member of caucus when I was in Ottawa 20-some years ago. She got into trouble for stepping on a doll at George Bush.
I remember that.
A little bit, she can sort of flirt with the edge of kooky. And so you got all of that. You got Deepika Damara, who used to be a provincial cabinet minister, running. Like, this race is wide open, footloose and fancy-free. By-elections are always unpredictable. But this thing's going to be strange.
Something to watch, indeed. Is it in June? June 2nd?
June 10th.
June 10th. That's right. June 10th. Okay, so we'll watch for that. We got about 6 weeks to talk about that. Scott, we appreciate this. I know you won't be here next week, so we'll see you in a couple.
You betcha.
Take care and happy birthday again. I'll say it publicly now.
Dragging this
You're looking great, my friend.
sack of calcium towards 60.